So today we're going to talk about Jewish symbols in the home, but I also found what I thought was a very interesting article that I wanted to share with you so that you could see these things too. This one was from Chabad, and it's called 13 Jewish Symbols to Know. I'm not impressed with all the pictures that they chose, but these are symbols that are good Jewish symbols, and you may want to know them. And if you got questions, let me know. But luchot, also known as luchot habrit, luchot. You see how it's written in Hebrew? It's not lechet or whatever you think it says over there in English. It's luchot, which are the tablets of the law of the covenant. And you'll notice that in their picture here, the tablets are not. They don't have a rounded top. We are pretty convinced that the possibility is that they don't have a rounded top, that they're probably more square. The original ones were probably more square. And the Hebrew that's writing on them, that you see on this one, on top of the ark, that's not the Hebrew that would be on if you found the ark, the one that, melted off all the Nazis' faces in the Indiana Jones movie. Yeah, I kept thinking Harrison Ford. In the Indiana Jones movie, if you found that ark and you found the tablets inside, they may be square-ish, but the Hebrew on it would probably be Hebrew you don't know. And they in this article, they're talking about 10 commandments, and I don't like to call them 10 commandments. I like to call them Decalogue. Sometimes it tells you, you'll see it with those letters. There are other articles here, like what shape were they? This is embarrassing because the menorah, they have to use one from a sign. What? So menorah is one of the symbols of Judaism, and it has 7 branches on it. That's the symbol of Judaism, not the one with 9 branches on it. That's the symbol of Hanukkah. But that's one of the symbols, 7 branches. We're in the middle of the Torah part where we had just learned how to make it and then light it. And then they're showing Torah scroll. This is also an embarrassing picture for a Torah scroll. They're showing it here, but the scroll, the Torah, the 5 books of Moses is not the only thing that's written on a scroll. So there are 5 Megillot. There are 5 Megillah means a scroll. There are 5 Megillot in the Tanakh, in the scriptures, and the other ones are written usually not on something with 2 handles, but with only 1 handle, because when you read them, you read it from the beginning to the end. You don't have to turn pages like we do when we're reading a Torah. We have to turn pages and go back and forth. Now, this is part of why I wanted to share this with you, because they've got some symbols that you'll see on graves. Now, these are not home symbols, obviously, but I thought you'd be interested. And I thought it was hysterical that they talked about this as the Spock symbol. I think somewhere here, a pair of hands with fingers spread in the Vulcan salute.
Oh, no.
Chabad. So I thought that's kind of hysterical, because you do know
they're starting to do that, I think, because the article yesterday had some kind of reference to a modern movie.
Yeah, I guess that helps. I think my internet froze. I'm sorry about that. I'm back again. And I was trying to say that, yeah, they used the Vulcan salute, which I thought was kind of weird, because we know that Spock got it. Leonard Nimoy got it from the priestly blessing. So if you see this on a gravestone, then you know that they were Kohanim. They were part of the priestly caste. You'll also see this pei and a nun often on a gravestone that is for po nichbar, which means here is buried. And then more details about the person. Here's another kind of stone you'll see. There'll be some kind of a menorah that's lit, which usually has several branches on it. It's often to decorate the grave of a righteous Jewish woman. You might also see, and I do not see an example of it here, which would have been really cool if they did that, that sometimes you'll see a pitcher of water with water coming out of it sometimes. And that means that the person buried there was a Levi, was a Levite, because they used to wash the hands and the feet of the Kohen. So sometimes they would have that. You'll also see these letters on the bottom, the Tav Nun Sadi Bet Resh, which says, it's about may the soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. Look how many people came to visit this stone. You see all those rocks on top? So when we go to visit, we don't bring flowers, because that's kind of, when you think about it, embarrassing that you chop off the life of a one thing just so you can honor the memory of another thing. But we leave a stone because it's permanent. Look how permanent this one is. I think I told you that at the beginning of the pandemic, I buried I buried two people actually in just a few weeks after each other in Marshall, Texas. And the guy who's in charge of the Marshall cemetery now is not a Jewish guy, but he is the executor of the fund that's supposed to be taking care of the cemetery. And he stayed for the funeral. And he heard me talk about putting rocks on, and he says, "Oh, I'm so embarrassed." He came afterwards. He said, "I thought kids were vandalizing the site and putting stones on it. So periodically I come through and I take all the rocks off." Question about this? I don't see one in the chat.
I just wanted to throw something out for everyone else here. When visiting a veteran's military member's grave, they don't put stones, but they will put coins on the grave. And depending on the coin determines your relationship or how you knew the veteran.
So I want to, and I love the fact that you're sharing that with us, but I want to point out that it's not that they don't. Because if you were Jewish and you were leaving something on the grave of someone who was Jewish, you would still leave a stone, even if they were military. You might also leave a coin, but I would hesitate to say don't. You see what I mean? So I think it's a really cool tradition. But this is we're talking about the Jewish things here.
That's fine.
Jewish tradition. So then they show you lions and eagles on a Torah or the Ark, the Lions of Judah. Often you'll see a crown because it's called Keter Torah, the crown of the Torah. Here you also have the Decalogue on this one. And you'll see that there are often lions, and says these are violent animals which are not even kosher. So what are they doing near the Torah, whose ways are pleasant and that all of its paths are peace? It says it's noted that the lion is the symbol of the tribe of Judah, which produced David and Solomon and other great kings, including the Mashiach, who hasn't shown up yet. We would pray for him all the time. And the images evoke the words of Yehuda ben Tema, who was known to say, "Be bold as a leopard, light as an eagle, fleeting as a deer, and mighty as a lion, to do the will of your Father in heaven." And also David, lighter than eagles and stronger than lions in their divine service. And then they show you an etrog and a lulav. Those are symbols of Judaism. To find the lulav and the etrog, this was on an old Israeli coin. Those four symbols. The seven species, sometimes you'll see some of those symbols on different things. The scriptures describe seven species which the land of Israel was blessed with: wheat, barley, grapes, figs, pomegranates, olives, and dates. So you'll see some of those. Magen David. Now the Magen David, from my understanding, is only a few hundred years old as a symbol of Judaism. And the way they can tell that is they looked at grave markers over the millennia, and only in the last few hundred years were there Star of David on it. In fact, the Star of David is a symbol that's used in many cultures to represent things. It's a very cool symbol that shows a triangle pointing to heaven and another triangle pointing from heaven to us. So it ties us together. There's a lot of mathematical connections about the perfection of 6 and how many triangles are in this thing. But it has become known as the Magen David, as the shield of David. And I was taught that possibly, I used to always imagine that something like this was on a round shield that David had on his arm that protected him. But I was taught that there's a possibility that the shield actually was all of a body armor, that there was a point that covered the vulnerable part of his neck and a point that covered his shoulders, and it trimmed down toward the waist, and then it came back out again, and point covered his hips and covered his other vulnerable area down there. and that the Magen David was actually a whole body shield for David and not necessarily just a circle on his arm. So whichever one is true, it's still a symbol of Judaism now. Doves and an olive is a symbol of Judaism because of the Noah's Ark story. It's interesting because if you read the story, which we'll do again in the fall, you realize that the dove eventually just goes away, and that the leafy part meant that the tops of the trees were good, but not the bottoms of the trees. But it's still a symbol. Then you've got chai. It popped up again the other day on some websites that it shows that someone along the line took that chai and said that it was a native moose, and they tried to sell it as a native moose necklace. Because if you look at it, it looks a little like a cow or moose. This one has a heart as the yud, but you know that it represents the number 18 because the chet is an 8 and the yud is a 10, and you add them together and it comes to the number 18. So 18 and multiples of 18 are a loving way of giving something for life. Yeah, Mom, you're raising your hand.
I have one that's an elephant.
An elephant chai. Yeah, see, sometimes we can turn them into other things, but this one was not a moose, and they were selling it as a moose. The Maccabean shield sometimes is a symbol. The high priest breastplate is another symbol. You're going to see 12 stones on it. That's a symbol you'll see. Chamsa, which is it represents the number 5, chamesh. It's a hand that sometimes has an eye on it in the center, an eye of God. It's common to many cultures, including Judaism. There are some people who think that it is not a Jewish symbol, so we should not use it at all. It says that there was a custom to say chamsa, which means 5 in Arabic, to ward away the evil eye. And that's why you wear it with a little eye on it. It says it's important to keep in mind that the Talmud says the evil eye only affects you if you place importance on it and worry about it. If you ignore it, the evil eye does not affect you at all.
See that? I'm wearing Hamsa earrings.
How cool is that? All right, so it's Menachem Posner. How cool is he? All right,
Yeah,
so I'm going to, he does a lot of stuff. So I just thought that some of that, especially seeing things on the tombstones, were helpful. I thought that was kind of cool. And now we're going to do some show and tell. So if you have Jewish symbols and paraphernalia in your house, show us what you got. Mom, you are first on there on my screen. So why don't you go first and show us what you have there? Describe that to us.
This is a tree. And when you light the candle,
Lift it up a little bit higher if you can, so we could see the candle too. Yep.
when you lift it up higher, the shadow that it makes is a 6-pointed star.
wow.
And you may or may not realize that's in like every Shabbat service.
Every service.
Yeah, I've seen it. I just didn't know how it worked.
And it's heavy.
I'm going to
I
show
got
you.
one other thing.
Light?
Say that again.
Did she say it was a yard site light?
Well,
Yeah.
I use it as a yard site light. It does not have to be, but I've been putting it in. Let me show you. Hold on. This is although I thought I had a video of it, but you put a candle, over here. Come here. You put a candle in front of it. There's a little holder for it. You put a candle in front of it, and that tree makes a symbol of a Star of David behind it when you have a candle in there. It should be a tea light candle. I had to kind of finagle this thing to make it work. And I have a video of it showing. You could look up, it's sometimes hard to find. It was really hard to track these down. I saw it once in a video and I tracked down the artist. I also tried to get him to be someone who would design our eternal light. And he wouldn't design the eternal light unless the whole sanctuary, he could design the whole sanctuary for us. And that wasn't going to happen. But it's a very cool thing. We were able to find some. What else have you got, Mom?
I have something else. I don't have a picture.
Yeah, no, that's good. Oh, sorry. I'm going to stop the share.
Okay.
I have a book that's very, very old, but it's never been opened. It's about 63 years old.
Wow.
It's true. She got
And
that
it's
when she
got
got married.
all the prayers. I got this when I got married. It's got all the prayers in it. And it's kosher.
See, if you'd open the book, maybe you'd still be married. Ah, I don't think so.
Actually not.
Actually not. So, and you have anything else, or are we done? We move on.
I'm done. I'm done.
That was wonderful. All right, I'm going to remove your spotlight. Who's next? On my chart, I've got Lexi. Are you ready? I'm going to spotlight you.
Can I share my screen first, because I can't get my camera to this, and it's a little bit restricted. I take it down.
You can share. Go share.
It has since been moved around a couple of times in the apartment, but that's kind of the dominant when you.
Okay, so we have a Star of David. That's good. I thought I saw you have something in your hand too. So stop your share so we can see you. Thank you.
I have a couple of things. I'm not going to do that. One is, see that,
Kiddush cup.
there's a Magen David.
Do we see it? Okay, that's cool.
And aren't necessarily Jewish, but I bought this as a set at a secondhand store.
For Shabbat and holidays. That's very cool.
And then if you want to get over there toward my bookcase,
You got your menorahs
Menorahs.
and other things. And other,
Magen David candle holder,
I see
and
that.
the three things I got from the Hanukkah.
Very cool. Okay, so I'm going to, thank you. I'm going to remove yours. And Marla, you're next on my chart. So I'm going to.
Okay, my first thing I think I need help with.
Okay,
This was my mother's father's Kiddush cup,
nice.
and I need to polish it.
Okay.
But this is saying that
It's not gonna polish.
it's not gonna, okay, so this is
Presented by-
from Congregation Lenatz Hatzedek.
Nice.
Wow.
And then when I turn it, I have a Star of David.
Mhm.
But the third symbol, is this trying to represent fire
Or
or light?
Looks like Christmas trees.
I
I
thought
don't-
of baseball.
baseball. We got baseball, trees, and fire. That's a very good question. I'll have to look up. It's a good.
Could just be decoration.
Nah,
You think so?
yeah, I don't know. I think it's something. I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look it up. I don't know what it is.
Oh,
I like the
while
idea
you're
of fire.
looking it up,
Well, I may not be able to look it up right now. We're gonna share. We only have a few more minutes left to share all of our
And
things.
then the second thing I have, you're seeing it in reverse.
Did you make it?
This is made out of Israel. It's made in Israel out of Israeli tiles. And it says Shalom, and I have it on my mantle all the time.
I love that.
eBay.
I love that.
That's
That's
it.
what you got. All right. And obviously this, it doesn't have to be an exhaustive everything you've got. Roberta's leaving. Where'd you go?
I'll be right back.
All right. I was going to share something else with you that wasn't a Jewish thing, but let me show you some stuff. Ready? I can spotlight me for now.
So you have your gun.
This is my Southwest share.
Okay, hold on. Let's,
Okay,
Roberta, you want to go?
okay. I have my Havdalah set.
Wow, nice
Yeah.
Kiddush cup. Havdalah.
And it's, but truthfully, this spice box isn't my favorite. This spice box is
Oh,
my favorite.
Nice, nice.
Where does it go?
Yeah, it's up there by the
Okay.
camera. You can put it by your face and we'll see you better. There you go.
Okay,
Nice. That's beautiful because it's
And-
got holes in it better. Yeah.
yeah, it does. It smells beautiful. But if we ever do Havdalah again, I'm gonna use one of these candles because when I used this one, it was way too
It got carried away.
inside the house.
Got carried away, that candle.
Got carried away.
Did. But then when you were talking and Marla showed the
Berta, you just turned off
shalom-
you turned off your camera.
Okay, well, because I hit it when I reached down.
Yeah. There you
Okay.
go. Nope. One more time.
No, wait a minute. It's been like.
There you go. Yep.
Okay. I made a southwest.
Ooh. Oh, lovely.
Oh, that's
Oh,
nice.
wow.
That's
It's the
lovely.
gracia
Yeah.
and it's all hand stitched and I put little beads in the top for the glow of the candle.
That's
Wow.
beautiful. That's really
Wow.
cool. Very cool.
So,
Very cool.
but I
have
am
one.
surrounded with other symbols.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the thing.
when-
We're not going to get to do. I know
Yeah.
that. We're not going to get to do them all. And I got a pile of stuff here I wanted to show you because some of these were the things that they talked about in our book. Or if you go to any website that shows you about things, it's going to be there.
I dumped my spice box, so I'm sitting
no.
on
Little pebbles.
cloves and cinnamon.
Oh, no. I was going to share this first for everybody because I shared this with Berta. I think this reminds me of Berta. It says her psychiatrist told her to make new friends, so she did. She knitted herself all these friends.
Needed friends.
Doesn't that
Oh,
remind
that's
you
adorable.
Oh
of
my goodness.
there's a cat on her that looks real, but there's a bunch of people and they're all knitted friends. That just reminds me of Berta and us. I feel like we're her knitted friends today.
That's adorable.
That will be taking a doctor's instructions quite literally.
I know, pretty cool, huh? All right, so I am going to spotlight me for everyone, and I'm going to show you some stuff. So we talk about candles and that sometimes candles have more than one branch, but sometimes 7 and sometimes others. So I have this, but I also have, and I think some of you have seen these already. I got these from my bat mitzvah. Sometimes nowadays we use short stubby candles instead of the tall ones. So I'm showing you both options here. And then there's the thing inside it. This one says Shabbat, Holy Shabbat, Shabbat Kodesh. That's the blech. But I got these and it has some of those symbols that we talked about. And it says Shabbat Kodesh on it at the bottom. And I still use those a lot. We're talking about modifying what we give to our kids for bar and bat mitzvah. I think what we're going to do is always give, well, I don't know. We're going to have a new sisterhood president, so I don't know. This is one of the first Chanukiot that I got. It has some of those other symbols that we talked about. It's got Decalogue Aleph-Bet. It's got Lions of Judah, 8 branches plus 1. And it uses the silly little birthday candles. That's not so helpful.
Oh, I just found one.
I have a couple of creative spice boxes. I don't use these. It's
Ooh.
called a migdal, by the way. The spice box is sometimes called a migdal, which means tower. This one's pretty cool. And you talk about having to polish it, but there's little holes in the center of the flower where you put the spices and then you smell it from there. For Havdalah, I also have a Havdalah candle here somewhere, but you already showed off your Havdalah candles. And I have a Kiddush cup, but you already showed off a Kiddush cup. I like this one, not because I have to polish it too, but it says Borei Pri Hagafen and cut out Hebrew letters at the bottom. That's a pretty one.
This is a traveling one. It's never been lit, but it came with a little spice
The
bag.
spice bag. I love that. So I also have 2 mezuzot, very pretty creative mezuzot. You can see the parchment already in this one.
Very
This one, the parchment goes in the back instead, and these are very pretty and they go with other things. And don't ask me why they're not hanging up yet. I don't know. But if you look in the
How does that work if the parchment shows? Wouldn't it
so the
deteriorate faster?
it may, and you're supposed to check your mezuzah every 7 years, but I'm not using this one really, but it may. But this one I imagine as an indoor mezuzah, not an outdoor.
Oh,
mezuzah.
okay.
The other one I think could be outdoor. It's fully covered,
Mhm.
although it's got like a plug in the bottom. It's got a glass tube on the inside that you can take out to put the mezuzah in, and then there's a plug in there, so it's protected. Some of the websites, oh, and by the way, so this isn't something that is necessary, but mom gave me one. Actually, she's given me more than one, I think. But this is a matchbox holder that says Lichvod Shabbat Kodesh V'Yom Tov, and to glorify.
And that has to get polished.
And it needs polishing. And then it says,
You
Isha Yilha Adonai Hi Titalel. So a woman who's in awe of God, she will be praised. Some of the websites also showed things that I don't think you normally see. So I brought some of these. So often they'll talk about a Mizrah. Mizrah means that you're facing east. And you put this on your eastern wall, and then you know which way you're facing.
Oh.
So this is usually behind me because that's east. And you can see that often, I think, in my stuff. Some of them also talk about something that has a blessing for the home on it. So this is one that I have. I've also got some lechamsas, but then I also had a couple of fun things that you may or may not recognize. Like, this was really important to me. It's pure Holy Land air that you can open just in case of emergency. It says, "Do not puncture, contents irreplaceable" on the back. I've had that for a long time. I know, I'm just always glad that I know that it's there. Obviously, we also have dreidels and other Hanukkah things in our house, but I also have this cool thing, which is a Miriam tambourine, because Miriam danced with the women, so that's kind of fun too. And I also brought this, I think I showed this to one of the classes. It wasn't the morning one, I think it was the evening one, that you use this for doing the ritual hand washing. And I think that's as much as I could squish onto my space here to show you some of the Jewish symbols. But I think that almost everybody knows about the Jewish symbols, and I didn't have to describe them. I just wanted everybody to get to show off. Removing my spotlight, everybody who wants to can turn your view into gallery, not immersive view, gallery view. And Marla, you're next.
Okay, I've been wanting to ask this for weeks. Behind you, above your little Ruth Bader Ginsburg person, you used to have a pomegranate, but you've covered it with a framed, I can't figure out what it is.
Oh, you want to see this instead of the pomegranate?
I don't know what it is. It used to be a pomegranate candle.
Yeah, it was the candle. Well, my candle's all the way over there because I showed it the other day. It was, so this is, so you know that when we talk about Jewish art, you may have heard me talk about this before, that when I was in the Tempio Maggiore, in the main synagogue in Rome, they have a museum there, and the docent there said, when Michelangelo was an artist and Da Vinci was an artist and all those people that have become so famous and they did all this biblical art, you think there weren't Jews who were artists too? I mean, I'm not saying that there had to have been a Jewish Da Vinci or a Jewish Michelangelo, but you think that the Jews weren't artists? They were. And so why aren't there any of those pictures of biblical characters and big scenery and stuff? And he said, because sometimes at during certain periods of time in some Jewish cultures, the interpretation of not creating any images of anything that's above, the flies or whatever, no animals, no people, they would not have made any depictions of animals or people. They would not have tried to do a depiction of a Torah scene if the Torah scene included animals or people. And so instead they focused their attention to liturgical things. They might have made lovely Torah covers or lovely without people or animals on it, or lovely Kiddush cups or whatever. And for me, the interpretation turns into what's called micrography or micrography, so that this is, my brother gave me this one, that it's a amulet. A lot of times they'll do that this has lots of power to, although it's kind of mesmerizing in the camera. But, and the back shows others that they have that are, they have certain kinds of mystical powers and interpretation. But you will find when you come into my office, most of my art is art that's made with words instead of with, painting strokes. And one is this giant, it's like big, like a big screen TV, this giant picture that is all of the Torah in micrography. But behind the pictures, behind the Torah, there's also pictures, like a Mount Sinai picture. Like in each of the books, there behind each of the words, there's also these pictures. And I got to meet the artist, which was so cool. He was at one of the biennials where I went, and I had seen his work at the back of magazines. I mean, I recognized his name and I was always impressed by the stuff. And I talked to him a lot. And I said, he was an Orthodox guy. And I said, so I understand that sometimes it's not appropriate to use pictures of people. How do you feel about that? Because he's got animals and he's got Moses up there. And he said, if you notice, none of the depictions of animals or people are realistic. So like there's a ram, and the ram has like a funny looking face. I mean, it's not everybody's going to think he's a clown, but the face is not a ram face. The face is a recognizable face, but not a ram face. And Moses is not facing us. Moses is facing back. And he was very conscientious about trying to keep don't make images of the things by not making it look like an image of the things. I thought that was cool. So
I forgot about your gong.
yeah, nobody asked about my gong. I thought you were going to ask about my gong. My gong has Hebrew on it. It says, it's actually not my gong, it's Mom's gong, but she lets me have it. It's supposed to be in my office, but I took it here because I needed it here. You see there's Hebrew on there. Hebrew says,
Who can read it?
Hakol beseder. Everything's okay. And so then you bung it. You know that everything's okay.
I never saw a Hebrew gong before,
I know.
except at your house.
Stick with me. Lexi, your hand's been raised.
Couple of questions. Dating back to something you said about your artwork and the artist who said you wouldn't make something that was recognizable as a person. If I've shown this before, but if you notice her face, you don't see any features. All you see is just the blank.
So in this man's interpretation, that would probably be kosher still. And it's an interpretation. It's an interpretation of the commandment and interpretation of how to not do the commandment, not break it.
And
I've got to go. I'll see you tomorrow.
Well, I'll tell you
See you
what,
tomorrow.
I'm going to stop the recording for now. Okay, if that's all right.
Okay.